Those batteries have been charging all night, but something still isn't right. I'm not sure what's going on. It's very likely it's related to the inverter. If you watched our frozen battery video, I'll link to that over here. We had problems with our inverter that was keeping us from getting these batteries charged. That was just one of many problems. I need to look into this more and figure out if that's what's going on. First, in case you're new to watching this series, in video number 1 I had a hypothesis that the electrolyte specific gravity in my batteries was too low, so I changed it out. In video number 2, I wanted to test the batteries to see if I was making any progress, and I was. So in video number 3, I changed the electrolyte out in battery number 2, and I set them up so I could equalize them. That's where we are today. We got to figure out what's going on with this inverter.
Because they were like at 50% when we left.
Just got off the phone with Go Power, and it turns out we had some settings incorrect on our inverter charger. Because we just switched out to the newer unit, I hadn't gone back through the default settings and made sure they were correct. And most of these default are set to an AGM battery, which makes sense because it's the most restrictive battery type. When you have it in AGM mode, it doesn't equalize because you don't equalize AGM batteries. Nothing happened last night. That's the conclusion of that conversation. It does affect the charging voltages too. I guess the nutshell is the batteries that were charging for 7 hours yesterday did not get charged properly. So we've got those settings all adjusted, and for the sake of time and effort, I'm not going to go out and try to isolate those batteries. I'm just going to go ahead and put the entire battery bank, as we mentioned earlier, through a full charge cycle and an equalized cycle. And then we'll probably do that a couple of times. We'll do that tonight, and then we'll probably do it again tomorrow. That's a lot of dialogue, but that gives you some idea about how difficult this whole entire process is when things aren't working the way you think they are. Our battery bank is used and very likely neglected, so I know that's going to be a factor no matter what the outcome here is. All I'm hoping for is a little bit of improvement in performance, and more importantly, not freezing the batteries. Another factor that's been in play for this entire project is the cold. It's obviously snowing today, and we've dropped into the negative temperatures, which is going to always adversely affect a battery's capacity and performance. These 6 batteries are all in the 7.2 volt range, which currently we're charging at about 14.4 volts. So the charge is actually fairly equal across these 6 batteries. These 2, which I've been doing work on, this battery is at 6.4 and this one's at 8. It's very uneven charging. So this one's almost like getting overcharged and this one's getting undercharged. That's really crazy. We're on our way to the hot tub, but I wanted to come out and take a quick look at these batteries because we're running an equalized cycle on them. And I noticed earlier that the 2 batteries I've been working on are not getting equal charging voltage. One is taking most of it and the other one's not getting much. The other 6 batteries, I noticed the voltages are very even. Yep, so the problem still persists. I think we still have a problem, and I think it's probably this battery. There's no way that battery's charged. There's just no way at all. I'm gonna go ahead and let these batteries charge up tonight. We'll let it run as far through the equalized cycle as we can. Then we'll check on them in the morning and see what they look like, and I want to compare them to the rest of the bank. Well, the snow did not let up overnight, and we're probably closer to 10 inches, but I wanted to run out and quickly look at the batteries and see what they did overnight. Last night, these first 2 were getting an uneven charge, and I want to see if they're still uneven. So battery number 1 is holding 6.2 volts. Battery number 2, 5.85 volts. So perhaps it's actually the opposite of what I was thinking. This battery in the back was pulling 8 volts off the charger, and the front one was only pulling 6.4 or something like that. So maybe this battery in the back is actually the bad one. So this front battery is actually doing better than these 3, and all of these 6 back here are all very even. I may end up just pulling, after all this effort, pulling both of those batteries out of there, and we'll just live without them. So I've actually been equalizing and charging these batteries, the entire battery bank, for 2 days now. And this morning I came out to look at kind of the status, and our voltage is really low compared to where it should be. We're sitting at maybe like around 11.5 volts under a couple amps load. That's not good. In fact, that's the lowest I've seen it in a long time. So I'm gonna go out and take a look at these batteries, check their voltages, and I have a hunch and intuition about what I'm gonna find. But let's go take a look and see if those two batteries, in fact the one, is being difficult, and I think we're gonna have to just cut them off from the battery bank. Well, that's the storm total. So I guess we're gonna be like 14 inches. Get to the point here. So battery number one that we're working on, 6¼ volts. This guy's at 5.6, that's weird. 5.9, 5.96, 5.9, 5.9, and 5.9. Clearly, this battery is just not going to give us any love. This guy seems to be doing really good, which is kind of odd. It's almost making up the difference between battery number 9 over here. That's one of our sets of solar panels there. It's steep enough right now with the winter solstice that it's sliding off a little bit, but let's just say we're not getting any solar today. It's kind of weird that when I measure those batteries out there, I'm getting 5 9s in, so we should be closer to like 12 volts, 11.8, 11.9. Pretty confident that one battery's dragging this whole entire battery bank down. I guess I'm not quite ready to write off that one battery just yet. It's totally possible that during the freezing it was completely damaged, and this is all just a dance. I'll probably get that battery out of there, and we'll reconnect the rest of the battery bank that's in good condition so we don't keep dragging it down. We'll just run off of 6 batteries until I can find a way to progress with this this other battery. You know what, actually, let me look at my notes. My notes will tell me a lot about what's going on here. This is why we keep notes. The battery that's taking all the charge is battery number 9. So this is actually the second battery that I did the electrolyte switch on. The battery I did the first electrolyte switch on was actually battery number 3. Through my testing was doing well. I was pretty happy. The willingness to accept a charge, the self-discharge rates and all that jazz. Now that I'm kind of looking more carefully over my notes, there was an improvement here. The improvement was nowhere near that of battery number 3. You know what? I just found something that totally is disconcerting, to say the least. This battery terminal is actually warm, which is not good. And I think what's going on there is that this bolt was not extremely tight. You know what? Neither is that one. That's even a little bit warm too. Not nearly as warm as this one. I'm actually going to crank this stuff down. I wonder, you know what? I wonder if there's something going on there. There's a lesson you learn with low voltage, is that quality of the connection is extremely important. I was gonna take those 2 batteries out, and I probably still will, but you know what? I'm wondering, just a stupid question, but if maybe there's not something going on here with these connections not being super tight, maybe giving a false voltage to the inverter. Need to check everything, apparently. Good enough. And we'll put this all back on the charger, let it run all day, and just see what happens. So we're starting at a pretty low voltage, 12.5 volts. See what this thing does. Check back in a little bit. So I just realized that I didn't explain myself well because I'm so frustrated with this battery project as to why these connections not being tight is such a big deal. So this connection over here, in fact, it's already cooled down. In fact, it's not even warm to the touch anymore. That quick, this has probably been 15 minutes. The thing is, when you don't have a good connection, you get resistance, and resistance equals heat. That's exactly what a heater is. A heater is nothing more than a resistance heater, like an electrical heater. That's just energy loss. So I'm all frustrated because I come out in the morning and my batteries are drained. And I mean, literally, we're running nothing for electronics at night. A fan, a little tiny fan, which these batteries should run that fan for, gosh, 2-3 weeks. I mean, maybe even a month. You know, there's so much stored energy here. Poor connections equal resistance. It's a two-way street, from what I understand. If I'm trying to charge with a loose connection, you're going to get heat. And so all the charging, amperage or current is not going into the batteries. And so you're not getting a full charge. You think you are, and the charger thinks it is. So it cuts off your charge cycle and you go into float stage. Then as soon as you disconnect your charger, your batteries immediately start dissipating their stored energy in the form of heat. Yes, there are times where we actually need heat in the battery box here, but that's not how we want to go about doing that. I was really frustrated this morning because it came out to 11.5 volts on my battery bank, which is absurd because they were charging all day yesterday and they should have been absolutely topped off. Maybe 12.1, maybe 12.2 volts this morning, and they're not. Turns out I was just bleeding energy out this and that terminal over there at a minimum, which is just a terrible way to, utilize your powers. In fact, I may go through this stuff too and just triple check all of my connections. We actually installed a plow on a friend's truck and he was having a hard time getting the truck started. And long story short, the connection on the starter terminal just didn't have enough contact. So we added a couple of washers and got that connection to be nice and firm. Bam, truck started right up. With low voltage especially, really good connections are important because of the amount of current that you're drawing. That's amps. And if you don't have good connections, all you get is heat and resistance, which is just bad. It's a waste of power and energy. Hopefully explaining myself a little bit better on that will help those folks who are not super battery savvy. And I guess the message here is make sure your connections are good, clean, solid, firm. They're not covered in corrosion. They're nice and tight. Make sure you've got good hardware. Make sure the hardware is quality and it's firmly connected. That one little thing could make the difference between a quality battery bank and just frustration. All right, on to other activities for the day while the generator's getting those batteries topped off. We got a bunch more snow, so I'm actually gonna go borrow the snow plow and try to get us cleared out again.
My turn, Jason. Get out the driver's seat.
Do I get to drive too?
Wait, that's a great idea. We should let Alyssa drive the plow. Good. How's it going?
It's okay.
I feel kind of like an idiot, and I don't know if I'm more frustrated by myself or the battery project. Got the driveway plowed, so that's checked off the list. Feels good. Can actually find my way around. So these batteries have been charging, I think, for like around 3 hours, and totally screwed up before. So I feel like I'm kind of starting over with the whole want to put the batteries through the equalize cycle, because I had all these loose connections and I don't know. And then I think before, if I remember right, it's been so long, we had the inverter charger set up incorrectly because we didn't change the default settings when we put the new inverter charger in. So that is what sabotaged the first effort to equalize the first two batteries. And then that night we couldn't jockey these batteries back and forth. So at midnight, -2 degrees, we just lumped it all together. But when I did that, I didn't tighten all the connections down. So for the last 2 days, they've been building heat in the terminals. Are you getting my vibe here? Like, my God, this is getting ridiculous. Even though my whole goal is to bring the battery bank back up, there was a tiny part of me that hoped, maybe it was my ego, that these batteries were gonna be just bad actors. But check this out. So battery number one, the one that was doing okay, 6.62 volts. Battery number 2, 6.8 volts on charge. The rest of the bank, 6.7, 6.74. This is so consistent, it's almost freaky. It's almost like this whole project's trying to just drive me nutty. Starting back over with equalizing, I'm gonna go ahead and let the generator run all day, run through a full equalized cycle. Hopefully it'll be still running this evening when we get home. And then I'll do a voltage comparison across the entire bank at that point, and that'll give me a better idea about these batteries. All of a sudden, kind of have this like glimmer of hope that it was just me being stupid that was causing these batteries to give me all kinds of weird, wacky readings that didn't jive with my testing. Now I feel like I'm back on track, so keep pushing forward. Part of me wonders how much snow this roof can hold. I bet it'll hold about 6 feet, so why shovel it off, you know? So it's been about 8 hours since I started the generator and ran an equalized cycle on these batteries. You might recall the last time I talked to the camera, we had just plowed our driveway and we got about 10 inches of snow since then. We're at maybe like 22 inches so far. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty close. 20, 22 inches maybe so far for this storm, which makes projects like this even more fun. Trying something I've never done before, and that's have a headlamp and a head cam on at the same time. 6.57 volts. And the one right next to it, 6.3, well, let's get a better connection. 6.43. That's pretty good. And the one next to that one, 6.46. So it seems like number 3 is actually doing better. And the one in the back is about 6.3. That's number 9, the one that I thought might not be worth saving. I go through these probably in the morning and double check all their waters, make sure they're doing okay. And then I want to let the batteries sit under load overnight. We'll run some lights, charge some laptops, stuff like that. And then I'll check on them in the morning, and hopefully these 2 batteries are still hanging pretty even. Now at this point, my intuition appears to have been correct that my miswiring was causing our battery voltage to drop, and we were just self-consuming through resistance. This morning we ran all of our fans, lights, pumps, everything just like we did yesterday, except for this morning we're sitting at 12 volts. Yesterday I think we were down to 11.5, which is the lowest battery bank voltage I've seen in a really long time. So that kind of had me freaking out, and I was really irritated. And so now the snow is about knee deep. You're starting to see a pattern here. So, wow. There's the total battery bank lid depth. That's got to be 2 feet. Maybe. Super excited. Unlike yesterday, I want to actually test these, and I have high hopes that our batteries are doing pretty good. 6.3, 5.6. That's not good. So that one, number 9, is dragging everything down again. 5.9, 6. So this battery is actually doing good in comparison with all the other batteries. This makes me feel a lot better. This one back here definitely struggling. 5.7-ish, which is the lowest of them all. I need to keep an eye on that one battery, because if it's gonna be difficult, it's probably gonna drag down the rest of the battery bank. But this is a better result than I thought was possible yesterday. We'll probably run our charger today and kind of see what happens with that. So our little stair project that we thought, you know, it'd be nice to have stairs, it's turning into a, thank goodness we built stairs, because where else would we build a path? I mean, you can't even tell that there's stairs under there.
No, you can't. I tumbled all the way down because I
couldn't.
thought I knew where the step was, but I was wrong.
I just want to say that apparently our firewood shed pretty strong. It's got a little over 2 feet on it.
Look at the back.
Yeah,
That's like 3 feet.
that's pretty good. Not bad for redneck recycled or reclaimed material engineering. It's been several days. We've charged these batteries up numerous times, I think it's time to make a final decision on whether this hack actually worked or not. I have a hunch when that ice dam gives away, this roof's gonna get smushed. After all that snow, we got a ½ an inch of rain. So now everything's melting. I want to come to a conclusion on these batteries because I'm ready to move on with my life. So let's see where we're at. Call me crazy. I'm not really keen on sticking my head underneath this lid with all that weight and just one support. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and just remove the snow from that lid really quick. So batteries are charging on solar today, and it's maybe about 30%. It's actually a partly cloudy day. Battery number 1, 6.30 volts. That's acceptable. But back one, 5.75. Let's see how that compares across the bank.
6.0, 6.0, and 6.07. I'm not gonna bother doing all the rest because I know they're pretty close to the same.
This battery, I feel like the result is highly positive. Whereas this battery back here, yes, it was a positive result because this battery would not take or hold a charge at all without the electrolyte switch. This is pretty much what these batteries did during my testing. The first battery I did the electrolyte switch on gave me high hopes that we were onto something because it was performing so well, taking and holding a charge. The second battery wasn't as exciting. It was doing better than before, but it certainly wasn't winning any awards. All right, let's take a look at a couple of cells here and we'll just get an idea how our specific gravity is doing. So this cell on the first battery, which is doing pretty well, is holding about 1.210. I do want to make a comment. Earlier in the video I mentioned the temperature effect on your hydrometer readings. This is not a temperature compensating hydrometer, so we actually need to make a small adjustment here, and I think we're probably sitting around 30 degrees. So I think the temperature compensation is like 0.12. So we need to add that over here. So we're actually at about 1.33. So we're actually at about 1.33. So we're actually clear up here if you adjust for temperature. And let's just check a couple of cells on this back battery here. This battery is sitting at around 1.150. So temperature compensation, 0.12, 1.275 or so, 1.2. So we're actually in the good category. I'm going to keep an eye on the specific gravity in those batteries in case they're actually too high, which is a very high likelihood because when you drop new battery acid in, there's a good likelihood the specific gravity will actually be too high. The good news is if I keep an eye on it, I can adjust it by taking a little bit of acid out and adding some distilled water. Overall, I would say the battery number 1 that we did in video number 1 results very positive. Battery number 2, not as good, but I will say this, for 20 bucks, these batteries are in better condition, I feel like, performance-wise than they were when I started. So, do I think I'm gonna get a lot more years out of them? Nope, probably not, but I do feel like they're at least usable. So that does it for this video. I've learned a lot through this process, and because this video is getting pretty long already, I'll probably go ahead and do a final thoughts video and share some of the takeaways for me from this video. A lot of people commented, emailed, sent me messages, and those messages were really helpful. I want to say that while I might not come across as an expert, because I'm not, I have a lot to learn, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with making mistakes and learning through doing. I'm not afraid of failure. I didn't start this journey because I wanted to get it right the first time. I started because I wanted to challenge myself to learn new and different things. And so I greatly appreciate those emails. I don't respond to them all because I feel like sometimes those emails aren't phrased in a very positive manner. They come across as extremely critical or even derogatory, which I try not to look at them that way. I try to keep a very positive attitude. So I do appreciate people reaching out to me and sharing their wisdom and knowledge, and I think ultimately I hope that I can bring some of that to these videos and other people can benefit from the community. One of the things we try to convey in our videos is not to be perfect or right. It's to be willing to learn and to make mistakes. And so I try to convey in these videos that we're simply trying to learn. And of course, many people respond very negatively to this, and I think it's human nature. We tend to criticize people who don't know what we know. We don't know everything, and there's no way to know everything. So if I could ask something from the community, the people who watch our videos, it's help people. Don't condescend, don't be disrespectful. That's what makes people not want to learn. It's what makes people reject learning because they fear failure. They fear criticism. And we put our lives available to other people on YouTube so they can learn from our mistakes. We're pretty good about taking criticism. A lot of people in the world struggle with taking risks because they're afraid of people making fun of them. So I encourage those people who watch this video and our other videos, think about what you're gonna say and try to find a way to make it positive. It's okay if you're right, that's fine, but try not to craft it in a way that comes across as condescending. Stay away from things like you're stupid, you're doing it wrong. Try to craft things in a way that comes across as constructive, such as, have you tried this or have you thought of that? We tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. Just because you watch a YouTube video, don't assume that you know everything about us or our life. And carefully think before you make a comment. Yes, I know that's a lot to ask from a YouTube channel. If you put as much effort into your comments as we put into these videos, this community will be amazing. Now that we've survived the snowpocalypse, we're gonna go try to enjoy a little bit of this partly cloudy blue sky day. We'll see you in the next video.